As Mr. Spock said in Star Trek, The Undiscovered Country, the great film of a few years ago, he said history is replete with turning points. And while that may be true, the turning points are still there. And history is such a mystery that we don't really know how many turning points there are. But AD 66, ladies and gentlemen, was the year that changed everything as far as our current timeline is concerned. AD 66, ladies and gentlemen. It was a year that changed everything as far as our current timelines are concerned. And today, that's what we're talking about. AD 66, the year that changed everything. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We are here to help you guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, and be your own guru. We're here to remind you you're divine, you're sovereign, you're free, you don't have original sin, but you've got the spark of divinity within. And AD 66, ladies and gentlemen, AD 70 gets all the press because that's when Jerusalem was destroyed. But AD 70 would have never happened if it weren't for AD 66. And of course, AD 66 was first. But what happened in AD 66? There's a many things that happened in AD 66. Number one, the Jewish Sicarii managed to drive the great Roman Empire out of Judea. Think of that for a moment. The Sicarii Jewish revolutionaries succeeded in forcing the Roman Empire to withdraw from Judea. More on that in just a moment. But the Sicarii were a group of Jewish zealots. And they got their name, the Sicarii, because they carried a sikah or a sikai, I think it's sikai, which was a small dagger concealed in their cloaks. And one of their prominent terroristic tactics was at public gatherings, they'd pull out those daggers, they'd attack Romans, and they would attack Hebrew Roman sympathizers known as Hellenists, and then they'd blend back into the crowd after the deed to escape detection. And they were an organized, militarized, messianic group. They believed in a Messiah, just like you hear about the so-called Jewish Christians of the first century believed in a Messiah. Only they believed in a Messiah that was going to come and rescue them militarily. The German popped into my head. I almost said militarisch. That's so weird when languages used to know pop into your head. But they militarily drove the Romans out of Judea. Think of that. It's amazing. A ragtag. Well, they were obviously very well organized. They obviously had lots of numbers. They obviously were very powerful, and they drove the Romans out of Judea in AD 66. And that was the last straw for Nero. Nero was Caesar at that time. They'd been dealing with the Jews. The Jews had been rebelling. The Jews had been killing. The Jews had been stealing. The Jews had been looting. It was a constant irritation to Rome. And Nero had it. This Sicarii attack that drove Rome out of Judea, he was done. He'd had enough of the Jews. And Nero ordered Flavius Vespasian to Judea with a huge, overpowering army with orders to destroy Jerusalem, burn it to the ground, not one stone left upon another, burn the thing down. And we know the rest of the story. We're going to talk about the rest of the story here right now. And you need to know the rest of the story about the Mystech bracelets, which put you at the Schumann resonance. You see, I wear a lot of them. I have a lot going on there. Some of them are for specific things as well, but they put your cells into perfect harmony, take your cells out of chaos. They are demonstrated by videos on this channel to improve your actual blood tests from just a few hours. It's amazing how they work. Go on jeffreydaugherty.com, click on the Mystech logo, or click on the Mystech tab. You get a full 20% off when you order through jeffreydaugherty.com. I need your name. I need what size you want. I need what color you want, or I can't get you your order. So please make sure that you do that. So Nero had enough. And Nero sends this army to Jerusalem. And we just had Joseph Atwell on yesterday, and you've got to make sure that you see that program. But this shows you that Joe Atwell is right. This shows you that Jeffrey Daugherty is right. And it shows you because to think that we know historically, there's no doubt historically that there was a strong, militant, powerful Jewish, messianic, militaristic movement in Jerusalem. So strong that they pushed Rome out, so strong that Nero sent in Flavius Vespasian to destroy Jerusalem. The idea that at the same time there was this big, strong, powerful, militaristic movement within Jerusalem, strong enough to drive out Rome, the superpower of the day. Think of how strong they had to be. Think of how powerful they had to be. Think of how influential they had to be. And at the same time, supposedly, allegedly, if you believe the New Testament, if you believe the Bible as you've been told and sold what it is, you have to believe it at the same time. There was a large, growing, influential group of messianic pacifists that were advocating turning the other cheek, rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's. If the Roman soldier makes you carry his 66 to 100-pound pack 1 mile, carry it 2. Ladies and gentlemen, the likelihood of there being a pacifist group and a militant group at the same time, and the pacifist group would be large enough to even be recognized with the strength that the militant group obviously demonstrated, it is an anthropological absurdity, and it is a logical absurdity. It simply did not happen. It was completely and totally made up. It would be as if during the rise of Nazi Germany, in the Polish ghettos, rises this group that advocates that you should say Heil Hitler, that advocates that you should pay taxes to the Third Reich, and advocates that you should not resist the German government. Totally stupid. And I know you don't like it, and I know that you can't hardly stand it, but to believe that there was a pacifist messianic movement in first century Judea alongside the Sicarii, like is reported in the New Testament, it's stupid. It's completely unscholarly. It's completely subjective. You got to want to believe that, and you got to want to believe it really, really badly, because you've got to set aside reason and logic and anthropological realities. And, oh yeah, by the way, there's reams of historical evidence of the militaristic messianic group, and not so much as a jot or a tittle. Oh, that's right. It was written in Greek. Not one drachma's worth of, no, what were they called? The coins back then. Anyway, a farthing was like a penny. Not one bit of it. So AD 66, the Sicarii drive Rome out of Judea. Nero has had enough. He sends Flavius Vespasian to Jerusalem to destroy Jerusalem. There was no messianic pacifist group. It's made up. Meanwhile, Nero's got his hands full with Rome. Nero's just sent the largest bulk of his army to Judea, which is a long way away. Rome's way up here. Judea's over here. It's a long way today. Just think how far it was then. And Nero probably didn't think this through too well, because Nero was already facing some problems. Nero was already facing some difficulties. And with the bulk of Nero's army marching off to Judea, guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? The Flavian family in Rome revolted against Nero and took power. AD 66-ish. Think of this. The things that happened in AD 66. The Flavians revolt. They take power over Nero, and the Flavian dynasty is born. And then word goes to Vespasian, hey, come back to Rome. You've got to be Caesar. So he comes back to Rome. He gets made Caesar, and he has his son Titus Flavius continue on to Jerusalem and destroy Jerusalem. AD 66. Or they tell us it was AD 66. We're going to pretend and play along right now. And in AD 66, we have Saul of Tarsus, a.k.a. Paul, the self-appointed apostle, writing an epistle to Titus. And strangely enough, after writing that epistle, Paul disappears from Judea. Next time we see him, he's in Rome, according to Josephus. And Paul, if he was real, in AD 66, Nero told him, hey, things are getting dodgy. Get back here. I can't protect you. For whatever reason, Paul runs back to Rome in 66. And the Flavians, or maybe Paul goes back knowing that Nero was in trouble because he had to ingratiate himself to the Flavians. And if he was real, he did, because Josephus shows him as late as 68 being in Rome as a valet to Vespasian. All of this, folks, AD 66, AD 67, AD 68. Think of that. Rome gets thrown out of Jerusalem. The Flavians overthrow the Julians. Titus marches down to Jerusalem to destroy it. Paul runs like the cur dog with his tail tucked between his legs that he was, back home to Rome. And then, ladies and gentlemen, something else happened that was very, very interesting. The Flavians decided the best way to control Judea was to leverage some local muscle and some local alliances and allies. So they made a deal with some families in Egypt and a family in Syria, the Hellenist Herod family and the Alexander family from Syria. And by the way, Paul was Herodian. And it's just so good to know this stuff, and it's just so good to understand this stuff. And the association with the Alexanders brought them very, very close to Philo. The association with the Herods brought them very, very close to Philo, who, of course, was the famous Jewish philosopher who also happened to be a devoted Hellenist, a Greek culture Jew. And Philo began to immediately merge Judaism with Platonic philosophy. For those of you that are Christians and don't ever study, that means Plato's philosophy. You know, like Socrates in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, really Socrates. So Philo's work is regarded, ladies and gentlemen, by Christian apologists and by it's admitted by Christian apologists, it's asserted by historians that Philo's work provided the foundation for the creation of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Philo of Alexandria, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, was a Hellenistic Jewish philosopher who lived in Alexandria in the Roman province of Egypt. And Philo used philosophical allegory to harmonize Jewish scripture with Greek philosophy. Tell me again why the New Testament was written in Greek. If it was a bunch of Jewish religious guys writing a Jewish religious document, And they just happened to write it in Hebrew, right? Because that's what Jewish religious guy. No, they didn't write it in Hebrew. They wrote it in Greek. Why did they write it in Greek? Well, because it was the language, the commerce language of Rome, who wrote it, and it was influenced by who? Philo, who was harmonizing Jewish scripture with Greek philosophy. It was written by Rome. And his allegorical exegesis was important for Christian church fathers, but had very little reception within the rabbinic Judaism. He adopted allegorical instead of literal interpretations of the Hebrew Bible, and some scholars hold that his concept of the Logos as God's creative principle influenced early Christology. Do you know what that's saying? The Logos. You know who that is? In the beginning was the Word. That's the Logos. And the Word was God, and the Word was God. The same was with God in the beginning, and there wasn't anything that was made that has been made except that it was made by him. And the Word was with God. The same was with God in the beginning, and the Word was God. The Word's the Logos. They're God, the God of the New Testament. Was taken directly from the philosophical writings of Philo and Josephus, Flavius Josephus, historians, scholars, philosophers, writers, thoroughly and completely affiliated with the Flavian family, ladies and gentlemen. It's as plain as the lemon wedge in this glass of hot water. That's a very plain lemon wedge. Philo, the Flavians, the Romans wrote the New Testament. And you've got to be a special kind of special. And you've got to completely set aside intellect and honesty and integrity to believe anything else. The very concept of Jesus as the Word of God sprang from the pen of Philo. And if you are a Christian, that's going to make you feel really low. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. And all this happened in AD 66, 67. What a year. It changed everything. Rome gets driven out, takes a little loss, gets driven out of Judea. And as Joe Atwell shared yesterday, the story of the Good Samaritan, the classic Christian story, right? When the Sicarii through this legion of Romans, drove this legion of Romans out of Judea, they took all of their food, they took all of their water, they took all of their clothing, they took all of their weapons, they took their armor, they took everything from them. They were scrambling back out of Judea on foot, some of them barefooted, wounded, no protection. He left them laying in the ditch. And who was it? It was Titus coming down to Jerusalem from Judea that found these starving, bedraggled, beaten up legion of Roman soldiers, put them at the inn, paid for them, resupplied them. Titus was the Good Samaritan. The classic Christian story, it was Titus. The General Titus that was only months away from destroying Jerusalem, ladies and gentlemen. You've been lied to. You've been sold. You've been told a bunch of garbage. A change in the emperorship in Rome. All of the straws fell together for the creation of Jesus as a type of Titus. All of the straws fell together for the creation of a religion that pretty much succeeded in subduing the Sicarii and buying Rome a few hundred more years of true preeminence. But really, The Romans outsmarted themselves because they laid the foundation, the philosophical and religious foundations for a religion that would destroy them. Because as I shared with you earlier today, the Sermon on the Mount, written by Rome to convince these Jewish zealots to submit to Caesar without knowing they were submitting to Caesar. We went through that document, and that document is a prescription, and I was really wrong. I realized I was wrong. It's not just a prescription for the overpowering of humanity. It's not just the prescription for the domestication of humanity. It's not just a prescription for the sheepification of humanity. It's not just the prescription for putting people into a fear and guilt, black magic, blood, and fear control matrix. I got to get that right. It's not just the prescription for putting people under a fear and guilt, blood magic control matrix. That's easy to do. Humans are easy to herd. Humans are easy to fool. Humans are easy to overcome. As Mark Twain even said, it's a lot easier to fool somebody than it is to convince them they've been fooled. But what the book of Romans really is, or excuse me, what the Sermon on the Mount written by the Romans really is, and the Sermon on the Mount really is the book of Romans, it is the prescription for how to domesticate exceptional humanity. It's the prescription for how to enslave exceptional humanity. It's a prescription for how to get exceptional humanity to submit to a fear and guilt, blood magic control matrix. Because look at the things that the Sermon on the Mount hits on. I think I might have already deleted that document. I didn't. Look at the things that the Sermon on the Mount hits on. It hits on Sermon on the Mount. Oh, I didn't have a document on that one. It hits on taking people that are self-sufficient and getting them to look for benefits from a benefactor. It takes people that are powerful and makes them poor and destitute. It takes people that are movers and shakers and are making things happen in this life to become so heavenly minded they're of no earthly good. It takes people that are infused with the power of life and gets them to live in fear and actually with the same mourning as experiencing a death. It takes the exceptional among us and turns us unto the worst among us. It takes the fisher, the man who knows how to fish, and turns him into a guy that sits in line and patiently waits every day for somebody to give him his fish. That's what the Sermon on the Mount does. The Sermon on the Mount takes exceptional humanity and makes us slaves. It takes the exceptional human to Stockholm, the Stockholm syndrome, ladies and gentlemen. None of your business says, why are they after the exceptional ones? Because it's the exceptional ones that lead rebellions. It's the exceptional ones that say, we're not going to worship you. It's the exceptional ones that say, we're divine, we're sovereign, we're free. It's the exceptional ones that say, we're not filled with original sin. We got the spark of divinity within. It's the exceptional ones that say, no, we will not abide with your program. That's why they're after the exceptional ones. As I go into the chat room, ladies and gentlemen, that was kind of a long dissertation by me, but welcome. I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say, ladies and gentlemen, and responding to them. Javanka says, thank you for the podcast with Joseph Atwell. Javanka, there's also a couple of other ones before those two. If you look back into the now 2,500 videos that we have on this channel. Absolutely. We're talking about weather. We don't need to hear about weather right now, especially. We're talking about crystal mines in Arkansas. Let's see. Let's see here. Talking about Clearwater, Florida, my hometown. Okay. Jesus is no Messiah, says Tracy. Absolutely not. Podcast excellence is never ceasing. Let's hope not, Michelle. Let's hope not, Michelle. Let's see. Strong zealots and Essenes. Kujam, show me some proof of the Essenes. Do you know that the only objective empirical scholarly efforts to find the Essenes have shown that the Essenes probably did not even exist? And if they did, they were a sect of either the Pharisees or Sadducees. That's who they were. All this Essene stuff that you've been sold by the blood people, it's bogus. The Essenes probably never lived. They were made up. They were created. And if they did exist, they were part of the leaven of the scribes and Pharisees. Don't care if you like that or not, believe that or not. It's the truth. It's a historical fact. And you just can't. The facts are stubbornly persistent things, ladies and gentlemen. Runaway Train says Rome still runs stuff behind the scenes to this day. Do they? Do they? Do they? Rome does. The Jesuits do. But is it Rome like Rome was? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to be diving into that and looking at that in specific detail over the coming days and weeks and months to come. Tracy Dyer says there's management above them. There is. She's sharp. And Runaway Train agrees with that. So they are sharp too. No, you don't. What did he say? The Pharisees and Sadducees were loyal to the Roman. Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes and no. But anyway, Pharaoh's colors are red, white, and blue. Can I see some documentation on that, Joyce? Can I see some documentation on that, Joyce, please? Reminds me of the show Spartacus. Karen says, yeah, it actually does remind you of that, doesn't it? Let's see. What else we got? Did Paul take Nero's wife? No, it's the other way around. Nero took Paul's girlfriend and married her, and that's the one he ended up killing. Her name was Sabina. What was her name? Poppaea Sabina. There you go. We're going to have to get rid of this. This is my chat room, not yours. Okie dokie. Let's see. What else we got here? 24 likes. Y'all are lazy. Keanu's going to reprise that role soon. Yeah, I've read that too. So let's see. God, Jesus is Logos. You're right, Kujam. And Logos was made up. So was Jesus. He's fake. He's not real. It's the amnesia. Absolutely. People are waking up. The word, the magic word, like Beetlejuice. We just watched Supernatural, where they did the Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. So interesting. It is, people that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it again. So that's why we're talking about this, Michael. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Tracy, do you really believe that? Paul was in Corinth, Ephesians, and Thessalonica preaching. Paul was running like a scared little bitch back to Rome. Paul was a liar. Paul was the first opposer of the message of the anointing, if he was really real, and he probably wasn't. And I'm going to prove it to you in the coming days and weeks and months. Is Beetlejuice coming back? Oh, dude, I didn't know about that. That's amazing. That's good stuff right there. That is good stuff right there. I would like to see that. Juan Galvez is Christian no more. Boom. I salute you, Juan. Good for you. He makes the most aromatic coffee in the world, by the way. So let's see. Let's see. What if a time machine was invented where one can only see the past but not get involved in it? That could change everything, answer all the questions. Um, Somebody claimed to have made one of those, but obviously they did not do that. Kujam, you're late to the party. I've been teaching that for years, but thanks for sharing. History is written by the winners. I still study history, and in the end, it's still only writings. That's true. Why are they after the exceptional ones? We explained that. There's so many rabbit holes. Oh, yeah. We haven't even got to the rabbit holes yet. There's Amanda B. Nice to see you, Amanda. Paul was dangerous and violent if he was real. That's true. If he was real, that's true. Kim Randall, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Kim Randall with the super chat donation. Thanks so very much. I'm already sure that any of these people existed. Shakespeare has a really good imagination. TT, I'm very close to agreeing with you that, yeah, I don't know how many of these people are actually people. And I think we're going to be able to prove that Paul wasn't a real person. He wasn't a real person. The chronograph, yeah, that's the one I was thinking about, James or David. And we don't know if that's true or not, but supposedly that happened. Some of those rabbit holes are just diversions. Absolutely, rabbit holes are there to keep you distracted from real stuff. Real rabbit holes are there to keep you distracted from fake rabbit holes. Are there to keep you distracted from real rabbit holes. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Is there anything to reversing words to investigate the potential of their frequency? That's a great question. I'd love to hear from someone that is an expert in reverse speech. I'd like to hear from them. I'd like to examine it. I'd be willing to entertain it and allow them to share their beliefs here on the channel. Because I've often wondered about that, Rance. It's very, very interesting to me. I don't know that I'm totally down with it, but anybody that has heard the now classic Barack Obama, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And when it's reversed, it's a very perfect, thank you, Satan. Thank you, Satan. Thank you, Satan. Thank you, Satan. That got my attention. That got my attention. And you asked the frequency, the energetic harmonics of reversing words. Rance, I would really like to get into that. I'd really like to study that. And I'd really like to, if you know people that are experts at that, send them an email, tell them to send me an email, or send me an email at gothamltd@gmail.com, and I'll contact them. Today, Fluffy just announced another service that helps the nutrients in your food be more better absorbed into your body when you're eating within the Fluffy environment. So go to jeffreydaugherty.com, click on the Fluffy logo, and you can have a 30-day free trial and take advantage of all of these great benefits. And of course, it's no good to get enlightened if your butt is smelling. So also click on the Hero Soap logo. It's the American flag. Hero Soap, let freedom clean. Right now, my butt smells like the forest. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, in the best possible, not like the floor of the forest where all the stuff is, but like the trees and the air and it's just like a fresh foresty day. So Hero Soap, ladies and gentlemen, let freedom clean. That's probably a little too much information, but every now and then you move and that kind of puff comes up like through your clothes and you get a little waft. You're like, oh, that doesn't smell funky. That smells fresh and nice and like a forest. And I can almost hear the birds chirping. And I expect little rabbits to hop around and start singing to me, and birds just like in Snow White. That's the way it makes me feel. It might not make you feel that way, but it makes me feel that way. And I like that feeling. I really do. So I would encourage you to partake. Hero Soap, let freedom clean. Let's see what else we got here, ladies and gentlemen. What else we got here? Is that called backward masking? It was back in, you can tell you used to be a Christian, Dyer, because that's the That's what they used to call it back in the day. You know, Stairway to Heaven, the most heavily backmasted song in the history of the world. Then, of course, you had Turn Me On, Dead Man. Turn Me On, Dead Man. You know, something about, Paul McCartney. I don't know about that, ladies and gentlemen, but it would be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting to look at this stuff and to check it out. So let me know. Spelling is telling, and telling is spelling, and spelling is spelling. Yes, indeed. I think this says it all about Barack. In fact, he's a Satanist. I don't think Barack is a Satanist. I think Barack was a Muslim. Barry Soetoro was a Muslim. So I don't know if he was a Satanist or not. I really don't. But yeah, I'd like to check that stuff out. David John Oates is an expert in reverse speech. Okay. Oh, what else we got? Holy crap, backward masking, whatever rabbit hole, grace be abundant, the bowling ball pin hats of pharaohs. I need some documentation. And if just because the hats were red, white, and blue doesn't mean that their colors are red, white, and blue. We just want to make sure the statements we make are followed up with facts and documentation. Facts and documentation. That's what we're all about. Cynthia said, "Oh gosh, Jeff." I'm not sure what she said that for. Oh, maybe it was me talking about my butt smelling like a Douglas fir. That was funny. That was funny. Nancy says it's too much information. Why? Wouldn't it be better for you to know that it is nicely scented instead of nastily scented? Oh, I got a whole new fresh thing of what do you call them here? Comments. Okay, I'll try to be back. Let's see. David John Oates. All right, got it. Boom, 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 boom. I smell the force daily, says Tracy. Good. How is all this crazy manipulators make history? They make it by lying. That's right. And Green Greg makes a good statement. The Jews didn't learn. The Romans destroyed Judea again in 134 AD. Absolutely. So it smells like you sat on a pine tree. More sort of if like the florist floor was covered with pine trees. I did that thing that dogs do, where they like scrape their butt across the ground. That would be more what I think you would get that scent. So anyway, Tracy takes offense to that. I'm not sure what. She could probably pick a lot of things. I saw your video just now, Greg. I don't know if it was old or young, about are you ready? Are you prepared if stuff hits the fan? That was a good video. So you should all go to Green Greg's and take a look at his videos. They're really good stuff. We got to have Greg back on the show. Barry doesn't know who or what he is. Barry is who or what he needs to be, ladies and gentlemen. He is who or what he needs to be when he needs to be it, he thinks. Okay. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're finished. Blind Girl says, in a conversation once over social media, you kind of lost me right there. I got to be honest with you. Someone told me that it's not the words themselves, but the intention of the person that comes out in reverse speech. Don't know enough about it. So don't know enough about it. I wonder if Green Greg knows anything about reverse speech. I don't know either. But ladies and gentlemen, we'd be remiss if we didn't make at least some statement about the House today releasing 2 articles of impeachment. All we've heard about was quid pro quo and bribery. So, of course, the 2 articles of impeachment are for obstruction of Congress and crap. I forgot what the other one is. Obstructing Congress, and I know they were talking about meddling in the election. I forgot what they called it. Green Greg's doesn't speak it. So the thing that really bothers me is they've spent 3 years doing nothing and getting paid. They know that they can't win, so they're trying to make up as much crap as they can, hoping some of it would stick and they might get a few Trump voters mad, but they've shot themselves in the foot. All they've done is greatly empower and greatly stoke up the Trump base. And people that didn't even vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump again next time. They've run themselves into a landslide, and they might just have set themselves up to lose the House in the next election cycle, because they know it was an act of desperation, because they know that they can't beat Trump. And if you think Trump has been draining the swamp the last 3 years, get ready. Come 2020, he is about to destroy his opponents. And the number one rule of Donald Trump is if somebody hits you, you hit them back twice as hard. They have hit him at every level. They've hit him as a man. They've hit his pride. They've hit his family. They've hit his convictions. They've hit his country. And I know that your Bible says hell knows no fury like a woman scorned. I think they're going to have to rewrite that come 2024, because the Democrats will be saying hell knows no fury like a Trump scorned. He's about to unleash holy hell all over the swamp, and I can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait. Donald Trump is my president. And on this day that they decided to impeach him, I'll make it clear where I stand. We've already made America great. So it's now our chance and our opportunity to keep America great. If this hat offends you, oh well, get used to it, because you're going to be looking at them for another 5 years. Kujam, you just redeemed yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, encouraging you to help keep America great and help keep Americans great by unindoctrinating yourself. And there's never been a better time than right now to unindoctrinate yourself. I'll see you again tomorrow. And until then, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. And yes, I really am wearing that effing hat. And I look good in it too.